The room was chaos. A dozen faces stared at the screen in stunned silence as lines of code dissolved into a cascade of error messages. The projector flickered, casting an eerie glow over the panicked expressions of investors and developers alike. Somewhere in the back, someone cursed under their breath. Another voice shouted for the lead engineer to fix it now. But no one could fix this. Amara sat frozen in her chair, watching the disaster unfold from the second row. She had been invited here today, coerced into attending, as a courtesy to the startup that had stolen her work. Her algorithm. Her baby. They called it Ecliptica, but she knew its real name, Project Luminera. It was supposed to revolutionize data processing, streamline machine learning models, and make millions overnight. That was until they took it without permission, twisted it just enough to claim it as their own, and rushed it out for this demo. And now it was dying right in front of everyone. A sharp beep echoed through the conference room, followed by another, louder this time. Then came the crash, a cacophony of system failures cascading across the screen like digital dominoes falling. Red alerts blinked furiously, drowning out any semblance of order. Panic rippled through the crowd, but Amara felt nothing but cold satisfaction. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't bad coding or faulty hardware. This was deliberate. She leaned forward slightly, her fingers gripping the edge of the table beneath her. No one noticed her. Their eyes were glued to the chaos on the screen, their minds racing with thoughts of lawsuits, lost investments, and ruined reputations. But Amara's mind was calm, focused. She had planned this moment for months, ever since she realized what they'd done to her life's work. Hidden deep within the labyrinthine structure of her algorithm was a failsafe, a kill switch designed to activate if anyone tried to tamper with its core functions. And tamper they had. The CEO of the startup, a smug man named Victor Kane, stood at the front of the room, his face pale and glistening with sweat. He stammered something about technical difficulties, but even he knew it was too late. His audience wasn't buying it anymore. Investors began packing up their things, muttering angrily to each other. One woman stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Others followed suit, leaving only a handful of shell-shocked employees and a few curious onlookers who stayed to see how far the wreckage would spread. Amara allowed herself a small, bitter smile. This was justice, though it didn't feel as sweet as she thought it would. Revenge never did. Still, there was something poetic about watching them unravel because of the very thing they stole. They didn't understand what they were dealing with when they took her algorithm. To them it was just code, a tool to be exploited, monetized, and discarded once it served its purpose. But to Amara, it was more than that. It was years of sleepless nights, countless cups of coffee, endless debugging sessions, and moments of pure inspiration. It was part of her soul. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her attention away from the spectacle. She glanced down at the screen, expecting a notification or maybe a text from her best friend checking in. Instead, it was an email from an unknown address. The subject line read, "We know what you did." Her heart skipped a beat. For a moment, all the noise around her faded, the frantic voices, the clicking keyboards, the hum of failing electronics. All she could hear was the blood rushing in her ears. With trembling fingers, she opened the email. There was no greeting, no preamble. Just 2 sentences. "You think you're clever, don't you? Destroying their company won't bring your algorithm back." Amara's stomach dropped. How did they know? Who else knew about the kill switch? She scanned the crowded room, searching for anyone paying attention to her, but everyone was still focused on the implosion happening on stage. Still, the weight of those words settled heavily on her chest. Someone was watching her. Someone knew what she'd done. It started 6 months ago, before Victor Kane and his team of opportunists ever entered her life. Back then, Amara was working tirelessly in her tiny apartment-turned-office, fueled by ambition and caffeine. She had always been drawn to solving problems, especially the kind that seemed impossible to crack. Algorithms were her passion, a way to impose logic on the chaotic world around her. When she first conceived of Project Luminera, it felt like a breakthrough. It wasn't just faster or smarter than existing solutions, it adapted, learned, and evolved based on user input. It was alive, in a sense. But innovation rarely comes cheap, and Amara quickly found herself buried under mounting expenses. Rent, utilities, software licenses, all of it added up faster than she anticipated. Desperate for funding, She reached out to several venture capital firms, pitching her idea with everything she had. Most rejected her outright, citing concerns about scalability or market demand. But one firm showed interest, Kane Ventures. Victor Kane was charismatic, charming, and dangerously persuasive. He promised Amara everything she wanted: funding, resources, freedom to develop her project however she saw fit. In exchange, he asked for a small equity stake and access to her prototype for internal review. Naive and eager, Amara agreed. She handed over her code, trusting that Victor's promises were genuine. What happened next was a nightmare. Within weeks, Victor cut off communication. Calls went unanswered, emails ignored. When she finally managed to track him down, he dismissed her concerns with a condescending smile, telling her the project wasn't viable and suggesting she move on. But Amara couldn't let go. Not only had she poured her entire being into Project Luminera, but she also suspected something was off. So she dug deeper. Through a combination of social engineering and old-fashioned sleuthing, she discovered the truth. Victor hadn't abandoned her project, he'd stolen it. Under a new name, Ecliptica, his team was preparing to launch it as their flagship product. Worse, they had stripped away all traces of her involvement, rewriting parts of the code to obscure its origins while retaining its core functionality. Amara was devastated, betrayed, and furious. That's when she decided to fight back. At first, she considered legal action. But lawyers cost money, and proving ownership of intangible intellectual property was notoriously difficult. Besides, Victor was slick. He'd covered his tracks well. If she wanted justice, she'd have to take matters into her own hands. So she did. Using fragments of code she'd kept as backups, Amara embedded a hidden kill switch into the algorithm. It was subtle, nearly undetectable unless you knew exactly where to look. Programmed to trigger during high-stress scenarios, like say a live demo, it would corrupt key components of the system, rendering it useless. She delivered the modified version to Victor anonymously, posing as a disgruntled former employee seeking revenge. He swallowed the bait whole. And now, here she was, watching the fruits of her labor implode in spectacular fashion. As the chaos in the room continued to escalate, Amara slipped out unnoticed. She needed air. Needed space to think. The email haunted her, replaying itself over and over in her mind. Who sent it? What did they want? And how much did they really know? Outside, the city buzzed with life. Cars honked, pedestrians chattered, street vendors shouted their wares. None of it registered with Amara. She walked aimlessly, her thoughts consumed by questions she couldn't answer. Eventually, she found herself in a quiet park, sitting on a bench beneath a sprawling oak tree. The autumn leaves rustled softly in the breeze, offering a brief respite from the storm inside her head. Her phone buzzed again. Another email. Same sender. Meet me tonight at 8 p.m. The rooftop bar at the Grand Lux Hotel. Come alone. Amara hesitated. Was this a trap? Or an opportunity? Whoever this person was, they clearly knew more than they should. Meeting them could be dangerous, but staying in the dark might be worse. By the time evening rolled around, Amara had made up her mind. Dressed in a simple black dress and heels, she arrived at the Grand Lux Hotel precisely at 8 o'clock. The rooftop bar was dimly lit, with soft jazz playing in the background and the city skyline stretching out beyond the glass walls. She spotted her mystery contact immediately, a tall figure cloaked in shadows near the edge of the terrace. As she approached, the figure turned to face her. It was a woman, roughly her age, with sharp features and piercing green eyes. She wore a tailored suit and carried herself with an air of authority that made Amara instinctively wary. "You're brave to show up," the woman said, her voice cool and measured. "I'm not afraid of you," Amara replied, though her racing heartbeat betrayed her bravado. The woman smiled faintly. "Good. Because we're going to need your courage." "For what?" "To stop them." Amara frowned. "Stop who?" "The people who are using your algorithm, not just Victor Kane, but others. People far more dangerous than you realize." Amara's mind raced. What was this woman talking about? And why did she care? Before she could ask, the stranger handed her a flash drive. "This contains everything you need to know," she said. "But be careful. Trust no one." With that, she turned and disappeared into the crowd, leaving Amara standing there, clutching the drive like a lifeline. What had she gotten herself into? Amara stared at the flash drive in her hand, its sleek metallic surface catching the faint glow of the city lights. The weight of it felt heavier than it should, as if it carried not just data but the promise, or threat, of something much larger. Her first instinct was to throw it away, to walk out of this tangled web she had inadvertently stepped into. But curiosity tugged at her, relentless and unyielding. She couldn't ignore it. She left the rooftop bar, her mind a whirlwind of questions. Who was that woman? What did she mean by others? And why would anyone else care about her algorithm beyond Victor Kane's greed-fueled startup? Amara quickened her pace, heading for the nearest subway station. The streets felt too exposed now, every shadow seeming to stretch longer, every passerby glancing at her with suspicious eyes. Paranoia gnawed at her edges, but she forced herself to breathe deeply, to focus on one step at a time. When she finally reached her apartment, she locked the door behind her and drew the blinds tightly shut. Only then did she allow herself to sit down at her desk, placing the flash drive on the wooden surface like it might explode if mishandled. For several minutes, she simply stared at it, weighing her options. If she plugged it in, there was no telling what she'd find, or what kind of trouble she'd invite into her life. But if she didn't, well, she already knew what happened when she let people take advantage of her work without fighting back. With a deep breath, she inserted the flash drive into her laptop. The device hummed softly as it connected, and a single folder appeared on her screen, Project Luminera. Her heart clenched at the sight of those words. She hesitated again before double-clicking the folder. Inside were dozens of files, documents, images, encrypted archives, even audio recordings. She opened the first file, labeled readme_first.txt, and began reading. If you're reading this, you've taken the first step toward uncovering the truth. Your algorithm is more powerful than you ever imagined. It wasn't designed solely for efficiency or profit. It has applications far beyond what Victor Kane could comprehend. Applications that some would kill for. You aren't the only one who knows about Project Luminera. Others have been watching your work for years, waiting for the right moment to exploit it. Kane's theft was merely the beginning. He sold fragments of your code to third parties, individuals and organizations operating in the shadows. They've weaponized it, repurposed it for surveillance, manipulation, and worse. This isn't just about protecting your intellectual property anymore. This is about stopping them before they cause irreparable harm. Amara's hands trembled as she scrolled through the rest of the document. It outlined a chilling conspiracy involving corporate espionage, government contractors, and underground tech syndicates. According to the text, her algorithm had become a linchpin in developing advanced AI systems capable of predicting human behavior with terrifying accuracy. These systems weren't being used for good. They were tools of control, designed to manipulate markets, sway elections, and silence dissent. But the most alarming revelation came near the end of the file. They know you built the original algorithm. They also know you're responsible for crashing Ecliptica. That makes you a target. You can't trust anyone, not law enforcement, not private security firms, not even close friends or family. The only person you can rely on is yourself. Use the information in these files wisely. Find allies if you must, but choose carefully. Time is running out. Her stomach churned as she closed the file and moved on to the next one. Each new piece of information painted a darker picture. Photos of shadowy figures meeting in dimly lit rooms. Diagrams of neural networks powered by her code. Transcripts of intercepted communications discussing Project Luminera in cryptic terms. There were even maps marking locations across the globe where her algorithm was allegedly being implemented. One particular audio recording sent chills down her spine. A man's voice, cold and clinical, spoke about Phase 2 of their operation. He mentioned names she didn't recognize, along with phrases like predictive policing and social engineering protocols. It sounded less like science fiction and more like a dystopian nightmare. By the time she finished reviewing the contents of the flash drive, dawn was breaking outside her window. Exhaustion weighed heavily on her shoulders, but sleep was out of the question. Her mind raced with possibilities, fears, and a growing sense of responsibility. This wasn't just about reclaiming what was hers anymore. This was bigger than her, bigger than Victor Kane, bigger than any single startup. People's lives were at stake. And yet, as overwhelming as it all seemed, a spark of determination ignited within her. She had created something extraordinary, something that could change the world, for better or worse. Now it was up to her to decide which path it would take. Over the next few days, Amara went into hiding. She deleted her social media accounts, paid her bills in cash, and avoided using her phone unless absolutely necessary. Every move she made felt deliberate, calculated. She scoured the files on the flash drive again and again, searching for clues, patterns, anything that might help her understand who she was dealing with. Slowly, a plan began to form in her mind. First, she needed proof. Raw, undeniable evidence that could expose the conspiracy to the world. Second, she needed allies, people who could help her navigate the treacherous landscape of global power players without selling her out. And third, she needed to protect herself. If the email's warnings were true, she was being watched. Possibly followed. Her first lead came from an encrypted archive buried deep within the flash drive. After cracking the password, a tedious process involving brute force and educated guesses, she discovered a list of names and aliases linked to various companies, governments, and shadow organizations. One name stood out, Dr. Elias Marquez, a former professor of computer science turned whistleblower. According to the accompanying notes, Marquez had once worked closely with the same groups now exploiting her algorithm. He had since gone rogue, leaking classified information to journalists and activists. Amara tracked him down to a remote cabin in the mountains, reachable only by a winding dirt road. Armed with nothing but a backpack of supplies and a burner phone, she set out to find him. The journey was grueling, both physically and emotionally. Each mile brought her closer to answers, but also to danger. When she finally arrived at the cabin, she found it empty save for a note taped to the front door. "If you're looking for me, you're already too late. Trust no one, especially yourself." Beneath the note was another flash drive. Amara's pulse quickened. Whoever was orchestrating this game was always one step ahead of her. But she refused to give up. Not now. Not when so much depended on her next move. As she inserted the second flash drive into her laptop later that night, she braced herself for whatever came next. The files loaded slowly, revealing a series of coordinates scattered across the globe. Beside each location was a timestamp counting down to 0. Whatever this countdown signified, it was clear, time was running out. Amara stared at the countdown ticking away on her screen, each second a deafening reminder of the stakes. The coordinates spanned continents, Berlin, Tokyo, Sao Paulo, Cape Town, and more. Beside each location was a brief description: data centers, research facilities, underground bunkers. These were the hubs where her algorithm had been weaponized, the epicenters of the conspiracy she now found herself entangled in. Her mind raced. What would happen when the countdown reached 0? Would these locations launch some catastrophic operation? Or would they simply erase all traces of their involvement, leaving her with nothing but smoke and mirrors to chase? She couldn't let that happen. If she wanted to stop them, she'd need to act fast and smart. The next morning, Amara began assembling her arsenal. Using what little money she had left, she purchased prepaid SIM cards, portable hard drives, and a burner laptop rigged for anonymity. She also reached out to two people she trusted implicitly: Mia, an old college friend who worked as a cybersecurity expert, and Theo, a journalist known for exposing corporate corruption. Both had proven themselves loyal in the past, and both understood the gravity of what Amara was up against. Mia agreed to meet her at a safe house, a rented storage unit converted into a makeshift command center. When Amara arrived, Mia was already there, surrounded by monitors and cables. Her sharp eyes scanned the files Amara had brought, her expression growing darker with every revelation. "This is insane," Mia muttered, shaking her head. "If even half of this is true, we're dealing with something way above our pay grade." "We don't have a choice," Amara said firmly. "They've turned my work into a tool for oppression. I can't just sit back and let that happen." Mia sighed but nodded. "All right. Let's get to work." Together, they devised a plan. Using encrypted channels, they contacted Theo, feeding him information about the conspiracy while ensuring his safety. In return, he promised to publish exposés once they had enough evidence to bring the entire operation crashing down. Meanwhile, Amara focused on hacking into the systems tied to the coordinates. It was risky, every keystroke could alert her enemies, but it was necessary. As the days passed, The countdown loomed ever closer. With Mia's help, Amara managed to infiltrate several of the locations remotely, planting digital breadcrumbs that would lead investigators straight to the perpetrators. She also activated dormant kill switches embedded within her original code, disabling key components of their operations. Each success felt like a small victory, but the looming deadline weighed heavily on her mind. With only 48 hours left, Amara received another message from the mysterious woman who had given her the first flash drive. This time, it wasn't an email, it was a direct call to her burner phone. "You're running out of time," the woman said without preamble. "They know you're onto them." "Who are you?" Amara demanded, her voice tight with frustration. "Why are you helping me?" "I'm someone who's seen what happens when power goes unchecked," the woman replied cryptically. "And I'm helping because your algorithm holds the key to stopping them. But you'll need more than code to finish this." "What do you mean?" "You'll understand soon enough. Go to the final coordinate, the one marked Ground Zero. Everything converges there." Before Amara could ask anything else, the line went dead. The final coordinate led her to a massive server farm hidden beneath a nondescript warehouse in Reykjavik. Ground Zero. According to the files, this was the nerve center of the entire operation, the place where her algorithm had been perfected and distributed. If she could destroy it, she could cripple their network permanently. But getting inside wouldn't be easy. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter, and biometric scanners secured every entrance. Amara knew she couldn't do it alone. That's when she made the hardest decision of her life, trusting someone else. She called Mia and Theo, explaining the situation and asking for their help. To her relief, they didn't hesitate. Together, they formulated a daring plan. Mia would create a diversion by overloading the facility's external security systems, while Theo posed as a courier delivering counterfeit documents to gain entry. Amara, disguised as maintenance staff, would slip in during the chaos and plant a virus capable of wiping the servers clean. It was reckless, dangerous, and almost guaranteed to fail. But it was their only shot. The night of the mission, the air was thick with tension. As Mia initiated the diversion, alarms blared throughout the compound. Guards scrambled to respond, leaving the main entrance temporarily unguarded. Theo seized the opportunity, flashing fake credentials at a distracted receptionist before slipping inside. Moments later, Amara followed, her heart pounding as she navigated the labyrinthine corridors. When she reached the server room, she encountered the last person she expected to see, Dr. Elias Marquez. He stood beside a console, his face pale and drawn. "I wondered if you'd show up," he said quietly. "You're not the only one trying to stop them." For a moment, Amara hesitated. Was this another trap? But something in his eyes, weariness, desperation, told her he was telling the truth. "They're planning to launch the algorithm globally at midnight," Marquez explained. "Once that happens, there's no turning back. Billions of lives will be under their control." Amara nodded, her resolve strengthening. "Then we stop them together." Working side by side, they uploaded the virus into the system. Lines of code scrolled across the screens as the program spread through the network, dismantling firewalls and corrupting databases. Outside, the sound of approaching footsteps signaled that time was running out. "Go," Marquez urged, staying behind to ensure the virus completed its task. "I'll hold them off." Amara wanted to argue, but she knew there was no time. She sprinted toward the exit, dodging guards and narrowly avoiding capture. Behind her, explosions rocked the facility as Marquez triggered a fail-safe mechanism to ensure the servers were destroyed beyond repair. By the time she emerged into the cold Icelandic night, the warehouse was engulfed in flames. Theo and Mia were waiting for her in a getaway car, their faces etched with relief as she climbed inside. In the weeks that followed, the fallout was immense. Theo's exposés sent shockwaves through governments and corporations worldwide, leading to arrests, resignations, and widespread public outrage. The shadowy organizations behind the conspiracy unraveled, their operations dismantled piece by piece. Though many questions remained unanswered, the immediate threat had been neutralized. Amara returned to her quiet life, though nothing felt quite the same. She rebuilt Project Luminara from scratch, open-sourcing the code to ensure it could never again be used for harm. Her name became synonymous with resilience and integrity, inspiring countless others to stand up against injustice. One evening, as she sat on her balcony watching the sunset, her phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Well done." Amara smiled faintly, deleting the message without responding. Whoever had helped her along the way, she might never know. And maybe that was okay. What mattered most was that she had fought, and won. For the first time in months, she felt at peace.